Okay, so this is the picture that we're going to do in this Wip and Chat. This is a picture, as you can tell, of a little Yorkie crossing the Rainbow Bridge. Now, the reason why this is so important to me is because I have a little Yorkie named Emma Rose, but she is in heaven now. She crossed the Rainbow Bridge June the 10th of this year. She was 10 years old. She had fought a long battle with kidney disease. She fought it for about 9 months, and she finally succumbed to her kidney problems. She had taken fluids at the vet. They had to give her fluids for probably, almost the whole time. No, not the whole time. Probably about the last 5 months of her life. She would have to have fluids almost every day. But, I was like, she was happy and she was running around and you never knew anything was wrong with her by the way she was acting. So I didn't give her fluids every day because she would whimper and cry. And I thought, I'm just going to let the baby have the life that she can have as long as she can have it. I don't want her to be in pain the whole entire time she's got whatever life she has left. So I did give them to her, but I gave them to her like once or twice a week instead of every day like they wanted you to. But at the end, for the last week, I guess, she was at the vet, probably week and a half. She was at the vet every day getting fluids in an IV, except for Sunday. And love her heart, she's just so pitiful. She lost weight, of course, because the last week of her life, she didn't want to eat. She would not eat anything at all. She just refused to eat. I even tried baby food. I tried mashed potatoes. Anything I could get into her, the vet said would be better than nothing. She didn't care what she ate as long as she ate. So I tried to give her all these soft foods that she normally would go ahead and eat. But she wouldn't, this time. And I tried to give her water. I even gave her water and baby food in syringes, and she would gag. She didn't want it. But at the very end, she couldn't even hold water. She couldn't even drink water. She couldn't handle it. And she was so, so weak. Love her little heart. She was so weak. And then one day, I went to the vet on June the 9th, actually, or 8th. And my veterinarian said, it's time. And I said, I don't want it to be time. It's not time. I don't want it to be. She said, I know you don't want it to be, but she's struggling. She's really struggling. She's not eating. She's not drinking much. Her temperature keeps going down. We can't keep her temperature up. And she said, it's time to let her go. Oh my goodness, you guys. That was the hardest thing I have ever done in my whole entire life. The hardest. That's my baby. That is my spoiled, rotten little baby girl. I'm telling you, I did not want to let her go. And if anybody has been in my position, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have your baby, your fur baby, you spoil it rotten. Totally rotten. She would go to Walmart with me. She would do all kinds of stuff with me. She was my little companion for sure. She was my baby. She was, she was with me through thick and thin, hell and high water. I'm telling you, people. That sounded mean, people. I'm sorry. I'm telling you guys, that was just so hard. But on June the 10th, I took her in about 4:30 that afternoon. And she already had an IV in because they were giving her fluids. And I had to tell her my goodbyes and love on her and hug on her and kiss her and squeeze her. And then they gave her a shot, and bam, she was gone just like that. Man, I bet everybody in that vet place could hear me wailing and crying my eyes out. Because I felt so bad. I felt like I killed her. I'm the one that killed my baby. But in reality, I didn't kill her. I gave her peace. I let her go home. I gave her happiness and joy. I gave her perfect health back. I didn't give all this stuff to her. God did. But the reason I'm saying I did is because, I made the decision to let her go to heaven. Let her cross that little rainbow bridge and see all the doggies that have gone before her, that is maybe her siblings or her friends or maybe even her mommy and daddy are there, her doggy mommy and daddy, I don't know. But I had to let her go. But there are days, even now, and today's like October the 28th, 2025. But there are days even now I will cry my eyes out. I'll think of something about her and what she did and how she acted, and I will miss her and cry and cry and cry and just sob like it was yesterday that she left me. But I know she's in heaven, like I said, and she's frolicking in the meadow, and she's having a good time. And when I get there, she's going to tell me all her adventures that she had so far in heaven. And then I can tell her the adventures I had down here that I wish she had been with me. But I'll tell her everything that I've done down here. And we'll be reunited. But see, my daddy's there. And I have a daughter there, and I have a son there, and I have a grandchild there. Not to mention, your grandparents and aunts and uncles and stuff. But those 4 people are the most, they're important to me. They're the most important to me because they were my babies and my daddy, The other ones are important to me too. Don't get me wrong. My grandparents, I miss them, especially my grandma on my mommy's side, because she was a sassy, loving little thing. I just loved her. I mean, I loved them all, but she had a special place in my heart. She always has. She always will. But, anyways, so when I picked Emma up when she was a baby, I actually called the person who was selling her to me. I told her, I said, when she's born, let me know. And she said, okay. So the day she was born, I'll put the photos up here if I can find them. The day she was born, she was no bigger than a lighter. And the lady sent me a picture of her, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's my baby. So I went and visited her when she was like 3 weeks old. And of course, she couldn't come home yet because she was still, feeding on her mom. And then I went back, and she sent me pictures every week of Emma. And then I finally went and got her when she was 6 weeks old. And I put her in this little car seat. And the little car seat, she looks big in this little car seat because it was a little car seat and she was little too. But anyway, that baby, she barked almost all the way home. And I had to go pick her up about 3 hours from my house. 2.5, 3 hours from my house is where she was. And I kept telling her, Emma, you have to get used to your car seat because Mommy's not going to let you out. That's for your safety. And she eventually got used to her car seat a little bit, but she hated it really. Sometimes I would hold her and I would put a leash on her, or not a leash, but her harness on her, and then put a strap on it so she could get in her seatbelt thing. She was still seatbelted, but she could sit with me and be seatbelted a little bit, or she could sit in the passenger seat and be seatbelted, But, anyway, I brought her home, and you should have seen my house. It was hilarious. I had pee pads all over the place because, you got to train them when they're tiny. And I had pee pads all over my floor, in the living room, in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, in the hallway. It was hilarious. And I wanted to make sure she knew how to use a pee pad. So she did. She got used to using a pee pad. But somewhere along the way, she didn't like using the pee pad all the time to go do number 2. Especially. So when we would go to my daughter's house, she would do number 2 in her floor. But then when we were at my house, I still let her not wear a diaper, because when she would do number 2, she would do number 1 on her pee pad. But number 2 is the problem we had. She didn't want to do number 2 on her pee pad. But I'd just go pick it up. I had not hardwood floors, but the tile floors. I had tile floors in my place. So I'd just, go pick it up after she'd do her business. So if she didn't go outside, and I'd take her outside too. So it's not like she stayed in the house 24/7 and didn't go outside, because she loved to go outside. She'd love to go for her walkies. I would walk her around the neighborhood a lot of times. And, I'd see neighbors that I'd know, and we'd stand there and talk, and some of them had their dogs, and we'd stand there and talk, and the dogs would sniff each other, and, just do doggy things, sniffing each other, walking around in circles, whatever, and just have their little fun thing. I'm trying to go chronologically here, instead of skipping to when she was 8 years old or something. Sorry guys, I know we're watching me put little dots on this picture. This is a picture of the Yorkie's little legs and her behind, because I started down at the bottom on the left hand side. Anyways, back to Emma, aka Pooh Bear. I called her Pooh Bear a lot. She knew who Pooh Bear was, and she knew who Emma Rose was. And if I'd say Emma, she's fine. But if I said Emma Rose, just like your kid, she knew she was in trouble for something she did, which was so cute, because she'd stop and she'd look at me like, what? What'd I do? But, she did what she did, and I'd have to tell her that's a no-no. And me having her spoiled, I never spanked her. I never hit her. Thank God, I can't stand people who do stuff like that. That's ridiculous. I never put her in her kennel. She didn't really have a kennel, but I never put her like in a room to punish her. I never did none of that stuff. That's mean. To me, that's just really mean. Anyways, that's probably why she was my little brat, because I really didn't discipline her too much. But I would take her to Walmart. Sorry, I got to get a drink of coffee. I took her to Walmart, and I took her to Walmart since she was really little. And I had her papers to be my service dog, because where I have multiple sclerosis and diabetes, especially when she knew my sugar was up, she'd start licking my leg and my arm and stuff. So that way I knew my sugar was up. Maybe not a whole lot, but it was still up, and she would know that. So I had her service dog papers, so if I took her anywhere, she was so small I couldn't get a service dog vest hardly. I got her the small one, and it was still too big. So I just kept her little card with me all the time. If they said something they would see, had her picture on it, and it had everything on there. But I took her to Walmart, and people would say, she's so quiet. If I brought my Yorkie in here, she'd be barking her head off, or he'd be barking his head off. And I'm like, at the house, she loves to bark. She was Miss Barky at my house and my daughter's house. She would bark if the wind blew sometimes. And it was like, what is going on now? But that's just how she was. She was my little yapper, But in the store, she was quiet. That's amazing, but she was quiet. She never barked unless you're a man. She did not like men coming toward me. She would bark at them. But if a woman talked to me and was petting on her and stuff, she was the quietest little mouse you ever heard. I mean, you ever seen. Never barked. Never barked. But I'd have people come up to me and say, oh my goodness, if I brought my dog in here, they'd be barking their head off. And I'm like, well, she don't bark, you know. She would sit in the top of the buggy like a little kid would on her blanket, and she would just sit there and look around. Best little girl ever was. I miss that. And if I went in a scooter or a wheelchair, whatever you want to call it, you know, that you ride in at Walmart, I'd have to do that sometimes because I'd have a hard time walking. And she would sit in the little buggy on her blankie just as good as she could be. Best little thing ever was. But, you know, she would go on trips with me. The last trip she went on with me was to Dollywood in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, with me, my daughter, and two of my grandkids, my two granddaughters, and my adopted daughter. And she went with us, and I put her in the Dollywood kennel thing for little dogs, and I paid for it. I put her in there because I didn't know she could go in Dollywood with me. I had a scooter in Dollywood because I couldn't walk around that much because of my MS. Couldn't walk around that much. And so I put her there. Well, I went down there and checked on her every hour. Well, the third hour I went and checked on her, I heard somebody saying that their dog was a service dog, and they told her that she didn't have to leave her dog in that kennel. She could take it with her since it was a service dog. Well, I'll be daggone. I was like, you know what? My baby could have been with me this whole time. So I told this lady, I said, my dog is a service dog. She said, is she? I said, yes. I didn't know I could take her in even though she's a service dog. She said, honey, you can take her in right now. And I was like, well, thank God. So I had her little bed, you know, with her. And I was like, okay, great. So I put her little bed in the bottom of the scooter, put her in the scooter, and she just laid there. She wasn't feeling good. This was sometime the last part of May. So I knew she was going downhill really quick because she just laid around, didn't bark at nobody. I put a blanket over top of her little bed because her bed's like a cat bed. It has a hood on it. So I put a little blankie on top of it. And she just laid there just as quiet as a mouse, never done nothing. And I took her out a couple times and let her look around, and she just, you know, didn't care. She's just so quiet. And then, this is the cute thing. After that, we went to Buc-ee's. I don't know if you've ever been to a Buc-ee's, but I love Buc-ee's. They have the best barbecue sandwiches ever. I mean, they're like $10 for a barbecue sandwich. But I'm telling you, to me, it's worth every bit of $10. I wouldn't get them all the time because they are so expensive, but they are very, very good. I'm not advertising for Buc-ee's. You know, Buc-ee's is definitely not has anything to do with this video. I am not affiliated with them in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but they do have the best barbecued sandwiches. Okay, anyway, we went through the car wash there because they have a very long car wash too. It is awesome. So we went through their car wash, and Emma sat in the middle console, and love her little heart. She was just like, what is going on? Where are we? What's happening? She would look out the left window and then look out the right window and look straight ahead. And she was just something else. She was just something else. She was funny, is what she was. She was just cute and funny. So she was just, you know, she would sit there and look and look and look. And never barked. And we went around to get something off of the car after the car wash was done. And she just scratched at the window and scratched it. She wanted the window rolled down so she could, you know, see what was going on. She always wanted to see. She was Miss Nosy Rosie, too. So, rolled the window down, let her see, let her look out the window. You know, she can't, I mean, I can't say she never had a life because she had an awesome life. She had a good, spoiled, happy little life. She went places with me. She done things with me. She was not one of those dogs that stayed in the house all the time, never went nowhere, never went outside. She wasn't one of those dogs that stayed in a kennel all the time, inside or outside. She wasn't, one of those dogs that was barely taken care of and you didn't know who she was. No, she was very well taken care of. She would go to the vet every time she needed to. She had all her shots. She had, her rabies shot, her Bravecto all the time. She went outside and played. She went for her walkies. She just done a whole lot of stuff. I mean, she was spoiled rotten, like I said. Spoiled, teetotally rotten. I'll tell you one thing. This was cute as a button. When she was about, 6 months old, 5 months old, something like that. I used to work at a facility that took care of people with like schizophrenia and bipolar. It was a group home. So they lived there in that group home. And I used to work there. So, one night, and I would stay overnight, like 2 or 3 nights, however long I had to work, and my ex-husband would watch her while I was gone. We were married at the time, but she would stay with him. So, one time I was getting ready to leave, and I had my suitcase open, and what's that little booger do? She jumps in my suitcase and wants to go with me. I said, "Oh, baby, you can't go with Mommy and stay." But you know what? Thinking about it, she probably could have. But I didn't think she could. As long as the big boss didn't come in there, she probably could have. My boss probably would have let her, but not the big boss, But anyways, she got in my suitcase, and that was the cutest dang thing I've ever seen in my life. I took pictures and video, of course. I have a ton of pictures and videos of her. So I hope that I could have put some of those in this video. I'm not sure. Because I'm still learning to do all this stuff. I'm sorry, I'm still learning. So, I know this Wip and Chat has been a big chat. Because it's very important to me. About my baby. I just want everybody to know how sweet and awesome she was. How much of a good girl she was. And how much she meant to me. And if you have a doggy, or any other pet that you loved unconditionally, because they love you unconditionally. You are their whole world. You are the one who shows them the world. You are the one who, helps them through this life. Their whole life revolves around you, because you're all they have. To them, you are their world. So, if you have a pet that has passed on, I'm so sorry. Please put it in the comments below. Tell us about it. Because it's very important to let it out, So this video is just about over with. So I'm just going to say, thank you for listening to all my rambling and chit-chat today. I appreciate it very, very much. And if you're new here, thank you for coming and listening today and watching this Wip and Chat. And if you're not new, thank you for coming back. Thank you for coming home, as I heard one lady say one day. Please subscribe, like, and share, because that helps my channel more than you'll ever know, because I'm just getting started. I appreciate it. You have a very blessed day. And remember to be kind and to love. John 3:16. Thank you. Have an awesome day.